Welcome to my best of 2022 video. In this video I'm going to be talking about the best games I played in 2022, but I wanted to lay down some ground rules first. Number 1. These games did not have to come out in 2022. 2. I don't have to have played a game for the first time in 2022 for it to qualify. Number 3. I don't have to beat a game for it to qualify, because I may have enjoyed the game so much but not gotten to the end and it still makes a list. I know what you're thinking. Who the hell is this guy? He's not qualified to tell me what games are good or bad. And you're right, which is why this is my personal favorites list. There's no possible way that one guy could make a definitive list of the best games of a year. There's no way for one guy to play everything that came out in a year, not even just everything significant that came out in a year. If you want to know what the best games of 2022 are, go watch IGN. Actually, maybe not IGN, but you get the point. Without further ado, let's get into the best of 2022. Before we get into my top 10 games of the year, I wanted to quickly go through some other categories I made up. Games that released in 2022 that I still want to play. Games that released before 2022 that I still want to play. Games releasing in 2023, hopefully, that I'm the most excited for. Now, let's jump into my top 10 favorite games of 2022. In April of last year, I bought a PS5, and through the PS Plus collection, was introduced to several games and franchises that I'd had no experience with before. One of these games, and the one starting off this list, is Monster Hunter World. The Monster Hunter franchise has been on my radar ever since I first got a PS4, but not wanting to spend full price on a game I wasn't sure I'd like, I'd never jumped in. Now, finally playing Monster Hunter World 4 years after its release, I really wish I'd taken the leap of faith sooner. The feeling of being a hunter and learning how to take down each new monster I came across was extremely satisfying. The combat was the highlight of the game and I loved trying out each of the different weapons. Also, fishing, 10 out of 10. Monster Hunter definitely seems to be a franchise better enjoyed with others, and after watching videos from around the time World was released, it seems that the community aspect largely enhances the game. It sucks that I waited this long to get into the game because I feel like I missed the boat, but Monster Hunter World is still some of the most fun I had this year, and I can't wait for the next big Monster Hunter game to release to finally jump in on day one. Number 9 is Bloodborne. What else is there really to say? It's Bloodborne. I've started and stopped playing this game multiple times over the course of 2022, but now I'm finally making my way through it for real. My hesitancy towards playing this game has been the fact that so many other PlayStation 4 exclusive games have been receiving PC versions and PS5 patches, so I thought Bloodborne would get the same treatment, especially since it probably needs it the most. Now though, I've given up hope on that happening anytime soon, as Sony seems to have forgotten that Bloodborne even exists. This game combines the tight, tough and teaching gameplay and incredible world building that From Software is known for, with a stunning gothic horror setting. It's right up my alley, and I've loved every second of it so far. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game that I began playing in 2021. I didn't get very far in it before stopping, so this year I went back and immersed myself into the world right from the start. I've barely scratched the surface of this game story-wise, but that's a result of me just putting myself into the boots of Arthur Morgan and taking my time. The personality of this world and its characters makes it feel so alive. At almost any point in time, you could stand next to some random kid in the road and they'd have something interesting to say. For me, there was almost no better feeling this year than just riding through an open valley on my horse, taking in the beauty of the world Rockstar Games crafted with such painstaking attention to detail. Even if I never finish this game, I will cherish that experience for a long time. When Resident Evil 2 first released on the original PlayStation, I was -5 years old. Therefore, I had a bit of trouble experiencing it on release. Luckily for me, Capcom decided to make one of the best remakes of all time, allowing me the chance to experience the horror of Raccoon City firsthand and in stunning detail, especially with its PS5 patch. Number 7 on my list is Resident Evil 2 Remake. Creeping through the hallways of the RPD, trying to keep quiet to avoid being taken out by lickers, and trying to be ready for the occasional zombie jump scare is extremely tense. And of course,
Jesus Christ!
Tyrant, affectionately known as Mr. X, completely changes the way you play the game after you first encounter him. He becomes an imposing presence, following you around as you desperately try to solve puzzles and get out alive. Even when he's nowhere near you, you can hear his footsteps echoing through the halls of the RPD, and it's genuinely horrifying. The story of RE2 isn't going to change your life or anything. It's almost at the level of a campy horror movie, and I love it. Resident Evil 2 is the first Resident Evil game I've ever played, and I'm so excited for Resident Evil 4 Remake in March. The video game industry is no stranger to controversy, ranging from questionable monetization strategies to toxic workplace culture, looking at you Blizzard. But one game franchise has seen a large amount of controversy based on its story. The first entry in this franchise, and number 6 on this list, is The Last of Us. Just a preface, I played The Last of Us Remastered, not the new PS5 remake. This game did such an amazing job of making me feel emotionally connected to its characters in a way that few video games have been able to do. The story is told so well through its characters, and by the time I reached the second half of the game, I began to doubt every friendly face I came across. Joel and Ellie are two extremely well written and performed characters, and the ending of this game had me questioning the morality of the choices that were made, as I know it did for many others. While I'm yet to pick up and play the sequel, maybe next year, I am very excited for the HBO adaptation of the game coming out this month. I've been working through The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for over 2 years now. Similarly to Bloodborne, I've restarted this game multiple times, but the reason I've never reached the end of the game is because of just how much I love its open world. I have almost 100 hours in this game, and in my current playthrough, which is my farthest one yet, I've only defeated 3 of the 4 divine beasts. The sheer variety of environments, the different ways you can encounter and solve puzzles, and the different weapons you have to choose from are just some of the things that make this game great. Similarly to Red Dead Redemption 2, just running or riding around the world on my horse is one of the greatest feelings for me in a video game. I have spent so much time exploring this world that I've somewhat forced myself now into following the main quest and not veering off the main path because I want to actually beat the game before playing Tears of the Kingdom in May. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is truly one of the greatest games I've ever played, and if you own a Nintendo Switch, you need to play it. Sometimes a game doesn't need to be amazing for you to enjoy it. Sometimes it doesn't even need to be good. And in the case of number 4 on this list, it doesn't even have to run well or look great, and I still loved every second of it. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are buggy messes, and exemplify the problems that the Pokemon games, especially in the Switch era, have been plagued with. Did that stop me from having a blast with Pokemon Violet this year? Absolutely not. This is the most fun I've had playing through a Pokemon game in a very long time. Once I was able to look past all the bugs and performance issues, which I understand is not an easy ask in the slightest, I found some of the best designed Pokemon in Generations and one of the best stories and cast in the Pokemon franchise so far. The Pokemon franchise has meant so much to me since the entire foundation of my love for video games was built on the DS Pokemon games. And while Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are far from perfect, and even quite distant from functional, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with the game. Number 3 on my list might surprise you, seeing all the other games on the list so far, but this is actually my favourite video game of all time. Stardew Valley released almost 7 years ago, and I've been playing it since 2017. I've found endless hours of enjoyment from this game, and this year in particular I dove back in, this time on an online multiplayer farm with 2 of my friends. Playing this game multiplayer is like an entirely different experience. While on a single player farm, I'd usually try to min-max my day and I'd get a lot done by the time the first summer would roll around. However, in multiplayer, when you open your inventory or start fishing, time doesn't pause, so it greatly restricts the amount of time you have to spend in a day. This made me slow down and appreciate the day-to-day of Stardew Valley even more, bringing me back to when I first played the game and wasn't sure what to do. Also, being able to introduce 2 of my friends to a game I love so much and seeing them love it too was a great feeling. Now, number 2 and number 1 are probably the exact 2 games you'd expect, but I've been struggling to decide which way to order them since I started writing this video. So, even though there's probably no suspense of what they are at this point, I wanted to do a few honorable mentions. Ghost of Tsushima is a game that I started playing around June of this year, and I played quite a bit of it, over 20 hours, and then one day I just stopped. I didn't play it, and then I never came back to it. And I don't know why, because every moment I spent playing it, I thoroughly enjoyed. I just never went back. Spiritfarer probably is the game with the most depressing story, dressed up as the cutest and happiest game you'll ever see. Basically, you're the ferryman transporting dead animals to the afterlife, but you give them hugs and it's happy until it's not, and you say goodbye to them, and then you feel depressed for 5 days. Death Stranding is weird. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that I've had interest in for a while, but when it came out in 2020, I had a PS4 and I was like, I'm not blowing up my console. Now that I have a PS5, I decided, let me give it a try, especially since I heard good things about them patching it and making it better and making it what it should have been on launch. It's a really interesting world with a cool style and some interesting characters, and I've enjoyed my time with it so far, so if that's something you think you might be into, give it a try. Ever since I played God of War 2018 for the first time in 2021, yes, I know, I was late to the party, I have been extremely excited for the follow-up and conclusion to the Norse saga. I'm glad to be able to say that God of War Ragnarok is an extremely strong follow-up to 2018 and my second favourite game of 2022. God of War Ragnarok has the best story of any game I played in 2022, and when combined with God of War 2018, I can confidently say it's my favourite story in any video game that I've played. The side quests in this game were very well done, especially the side quests focusing on specific characters and their backstories. These side quests were a nice break in the action and granted some nice rewards too. I also really appreciated the attention that went into the little quips and passing lines of dialogue from the characters when running around or just doing nothing. The characters in this game are so well written, and the performances given by these actors were absolutely incredible. Some lines genuinely gave me chills.
You seem like a calm and reasonable person. Are you? A calm and reasonable person.
And while it does have some pacing issues, with some story sections going on for a bit longer than I would have liked, looking back on the entire game, those sections held significant importance and made for some great payoffs to the overall story. Not to mention, this game probably has one of the best character reveals of any game, at least any I've played, and when it happened, my jaw was on the floor. Moving on from the story, the combat in God of War Ragnarok is greatly improved from the 2018 game, with more variety in playstyle and, spoilers, a new weapon that is insanely fun to use. There are also several other changes and additions to the gameplay that I feel would be too big of a spoiler to share. One last thing, the soundtrack in this game is phenomenal, and I think the hurdy-gurdy may now be my new favourite instrument. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this game, and if you've played God of War 2018, actually, if you played God of War 2018, you've probably already played this game. But if for some reason you haven't, this is a must-play for all PlayStation owners. Now, number 1 on this list is easily the game I spent the most time playing this year, and is definitely the game you're all expecting. But screw it, it's my list, call me basic or whatever, but my 2022 Game of the Year is... Oh come on, of course it's Elden Ring, you knew that before you clicked on this video. Bill Clinton is the game that made me a Souls fan. The game took me back to how I felt playing Pokemon games as a kid. Now, I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. When I first played Pokemon, I would get lost. A lot. But in being lost and forgetting what I was supposed to be doing, I ended up roaming around and finding so much cool stuff, getting my ass handed to me by some random wild Pokemon, and then starting that exploration process over again. Elden Ring brought me back to that feeling, and I loved it. I went in completely blind and got lost so many times, got stuck in a treasure chest, and survived the wastelands of Florida, but I loved every second. Except for some parts of Caelid. Caelid sucks. I love the sheer variety of builds you can choose from, just for me to go and find 2 big swords and jump attack all day. I love the fact that this game has so many unique bosses and enemies, along with such a massive open world with so much variety in its environments. I love all the lore that confuses me and that I have to go on YouTube to understand. And most of all, I love the feeling of finally beating a boss after so many attempts. But also the fact that if I had wanted, I could have just left and gone and fought another different boss, got some better gear, and come back 10 hours later to this one and one-shot it. There are still areas of this game that I am yet to fully explore, and I am 100% doing a replay in 2023. Hopefully with some DLC, right FromSoft? Right? Elden Ring is definitely not for everyone. Some people are not fond of the die again style of game, and that's completely understandable. But if you're not opposed to that style, or even if you're on the fence, you should give Elden Ring a try, because I'm sure that you'll find something you'll enjoy if you give it a fair shake. Elden Ring is easily in my top 5 games ever. It's genuinely a masterpiece, and I'm so curious to see what the next Souls game will be now that the bar is set so insanely high. Thank you so much for watching my best of 2022. I hope that maybe you found a game you'd be interested in trying for yourself. If you did, leave a comment and let me know which one. Hopefully 2023 will be the year that I finally post a YouTube video, other than this one at least. But I've been saying that to myself for years now. If you subscribe, you'll be the first to find out if I do. Thanks again for watching, and here's to a great 2023.